everybody, please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to call the meeting to order, show all council members are in attendance. If there is a topic you would like to address the council on, if you would step forward to the podium, and there is a sign-in sheet with a name and address. We thought we might have more than the typical number of people here tonight, and so we want to make sure we capture your name and address so that we can keep the minutes current. Thank you, and I'd open with a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Tonight we have 3 public hearings. Again, if you want to address the council for public hearings, you have up to 10 minutes. And step forward to the podium and give us your name and address for the record, and if you'd write it down. This time and place for a public hearing is advertised on the matter of Resolution 17-44, a resolution approving the plans, specifications, form of contract, and cost estimate for the replacement of the flooring in the Council Bluffs Library. Is proof of publication on file?
Yes, it is.
Have any written protests been received?
None received.
Is there anyone here wishing to speak to the council in regard to this matter? What is the council's pleasure?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there discussion?
I think they've done a good job with the carpet they've got. Much of it's 19 years old, and I think we have so many folks from the city and the county who pay to use it. It makes sense to replace it after 19 years of 1,000 people coming in a day.
The nice part is they are replacing it with carpet tiles, so if they do get a stain or a damaged area, they can just replace that piece. So hopefully it'll make it last longer and be more economical.
And I appreciate the efforts to try and do a good job on this particular project and with the particular need. As the public is aware, we have the budget on the agenda. We're going to defer for 2 weeks on the budget, but nonetheless, in my mind, there are serious issues of concern about the budget. We discussed in our last meeting the need to find some spending restraint. And this particular item was discussed among some others, and I think it's important, notwithstanding the need, that we demonstrate our ability to tighten our belts and to make hard choices when necessary. And given the fact that the budget is before us and we have to make decisions, I think this is a time to demonstrate that restraint. So I'm going to regrettably vote no against this project.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Nay.
This is time and place for a resolution. This is time and place for a public hearing as advertised on the matter of Resolution 17-45. The resolution approves the plan, specification, form of contract, and cost estimate for the Walnut Grove Subdivision Sanitary Sewer Replacement Project at 2920 Avenue J. Is proof of publication on file?
Yes, it is.
Have any written protests been received?
None received.
Is there anyone wishing to speak to the council in regards to this matter? Seeing none, what is the council's pleasure?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. This time and place for a public hearing is advertised on the matter of Resolution 17-46, a resolution approving the mayor's budget for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2018. Is proof of publication on file?
Yes, it is.
Have any written protests been received?
None received.
Is there anyone wishing to speak to the council in regards to this matter?
Yes, I am. My name is David Flavin, 3606 Avenue E. Here, let me.
Thank you.
I was looking at your budget today and everything, and within the budget, you do not have anything like a capital expenditures inside that. So your budget is incomplete. You have to have capital expenditures inside of it. Otherwise, we don't know what you're actually budgeting for. And why is the mayor's office increasing from $250,000 in 2004 to a budget estimate of $500,000? There's 3 or 4 different departments doing this. I don't understand why. Your salaries are increasing exponentially. Your residents of Council Bluffs cannot afford that. There are people that live in this community that are making minimum wages. They have not had raises in 5 years, 10 years, some of them. You're taking this community to bankruptcy. You need to sit down and really seriously look at what your expenditures are.
Look at them every day, sir.
Well, I was just looking at it, and I cannot believe what you're doing.
Well, I would tell you the general governmental expenses, which includes the city clerk, the mayor's office, the treasurer's office, and the attorney's office, went up in expenditures $60,000. $90,000 of that increase is for the city council election next year. We did not have an election this year, and so there was nothing budgeted. So actually, if you net that out, it went down $30,000. So, well, I don't know where you say the mayor's budget. My budget's through the roof and went from 200 to 500.
I'll show it to you.
I'd love to see it. Thank you.
Okay, I have no problems. Thank you.
Anyone else?
As I just noted on the sign-in form, I'm Mark Tompkins of 2817 McInerney Drive. And I just wanted to remind you people of a few things. You know, it was Edwin Burke that one time said, "Those who ignore history are destined to repeat it." Keep that in mind as we examine particularly the budget this evening. After all, whether you think it's a good idea or a bad idea what's going on with the budget, understand you can rationalize anything. That's easy to do when the idea is yours instead of the public's. And if you think it's not easy to rationalize things, just realize that the Nazis rationalized 6 million dead Jews. So if you think it's good or bad, it's not too hard to rationalize stealing money out of the taxpayer's pocket when you could do other things. Also keep in mind how Obama vigorously and with lies aplenty stuffed Obamacare down the public's throat. And I'd posit that didn't work out real well. Moreover, stuffing a big tax increase down the public's throat may not work out well either for the citizenry or those who are seeking re-election at some point in time. So don't forget the lessons of history. It could be a lot easier to cut 10 or 15% out of the existing budget by doing conservative, fiscally responsible things than just rolling the dice and asking the public for more money. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Lenny Scaletta. I live at 2025 31st Avenue in Bluffs Acres, and I'm concerned about raising the taxes and the deal on West Broadway. Maybe there's some things that need to be done like the sewer system, but some of the other stuff, my suggestion is to put it on hold because if you raise the taxes, and I understand you're going to raise taxes on businesses, that means they're going to have to either charge more money or maybe even go out of business. And me being on Social Security and a military disability, I didn't even, I got a 0.3% raise last year, and $1,000, that's $3. And so I just can't afford anything like that. And there's a lot of people on Social Security and disability and everything that are the same way. And it's just it's a trickle down effect. So, the West Broadway thing, I'm against it anyway. And I've mentioned that in previous meetings. But right now with this budget, the bottom line is I think that we ought to just put that on hold or relook at it or something. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone from the council?
Motion, just a motion to continue the public hearing to March 13th.
Is there a second?
Second.
There was some discussion this afternoon. We have a open to the public and broadcast online committee meeting where it's the first time all 5 of us and the mayor sit down and discuss issues, because not more than 2 of us can discuss, 2 on the council can discuss issues with one another without 24 hours notice to you, the public, and the discussion being had in the open. So that's the first time we sit and discuss things. There were a lot of questions raised this afternoon, including by my newest colleague, Councilmember Sandow, who wanted more time to ask questions. And it's the tradition of our body that if any of our colleagues would seek additional time to have their questions answered, that the rest of us respect that and grant that additional time. And so I'm willing to extend that courtesy. That is our tradition. I think it's appropriate. It's a matter of respect to a fellow representative of the public. And so I agree that we ought to postpone to the next meeting. The only other thing I would briefly say is I'm still looking at the budget myself, but I will say that the only increase in the proposed budget by the mayor, the only increase in taxation, net increase, is to fund the police station, which the voters, you decided you wanted to do. So if the budget were to pass with no changes, there is no tax increase for the 10th time in a row.
It's the 12th year the levy hasn't increased. No, it's two-sided formula, levy and valuation, and so valuation goes up, taxes go up. So
Sure.
I don't want to be misleading, but for 12 years, this council has held the levy.
But I do just want to point out the only tax increase is one you voted for yourself directly. So that was your choice. And it was for the police station. I think you made the right one for what it's worth.
I would like to clarify one point and then expand on another, what I made at the study session. And that is, I have a little bit of a problem characterizing the tax increase as paying for the new police station, because at the rate of the tax increase in the budget, it'll take 38 years to pay off the police station at the rate of the tax increase. So that doesn't equate to the bond issuance that we put before the voters. And the ballot initiative that approved that bonding did not suggest that your taxes would be going up as a result of it. This asked for permission to issue bonds in response to the desire of the people to build a new police station. So just wanted to clarify that
So
point.
let me help you a little bit to understand. The amount of the police station, $20 million, and probably your math is correct based on what the levy went up, because what I am proposing doing is the first bond issuance, keeping that below 10 million, which then allows for what's called bank qualified financing, will help the taxpayers with a lower interest rate. We only need $7.5 million in that year towards construction of the police station. We will come back next year and add another $12.5 million. And we told people that would be between 50 and 55 cents in total, depending on what the interest rates were at that time. And so if the money's generated about 578,000 on $7.5 million. It is, I don't have a pencil in front of me, but obviously less than half of the amount that we bond. We're borrowing 20 million. If you double that and add a little more, it would pay it off in 20 years with interest. So It's not a 38-year bond. It is $7.5 million at 16.5 cents increase, generates 500 and change annually. That if you just do that would pay off in 20 years.
And bonding is indeed a complicated mix to work out. And last June, the late Mr. Jordet, our finance director, presented us with a memo and documentation expressing concern about our future bonding capacity. And he said that we had so heavily borrowed into the future to pay for past projects that our ability to bond this year was down significantly, and next year would drop to zero. And that has pretty significant bond implications, to say the least. So as we consider debt, it does become a pretty complicated equation. And so, so I just wanted to try and issue a little bit of clarity. The other point I wanted to address is just making it clear to the public that we are deferring the vote, extending the public hearing. That gives us an opportunity, as was mentioned, to come back with a number of questions concerning the budget. And we do have a number of questions because these budget numbers are pretty significant, and we need to get some things straightened out so that we understand what the total future implications are, because it's not just spending for the next year or what we're going to be building the next year, but what the decisions that we make now many times extend far into the future in their consequences. And part of what we have to consider here, whether it's in the capital improvements plan, which is also being delayed, or in other things, has long-term consequences. And one of the things I asked the mayor to try and get clarity on other moving pieces that will affect not only future taxation, but also budget implications for the city. And that is our understanding that the county assessor is now undertaking to increase business property valuations across the city. And I asked for some further clarity as to how broad and how deep those increases might be, because that's going to impact the viability for potentially for a great number of businesses in this city. And if we have businesses that begin to go under because they can no longer pay their tax bills, then that's going to affect the city's future very much. It's going to affect people's jobs. It's going to affect quality of life here in the city. And we could very quickly find ourselves in a very serious financial spiral. So I think it's important that we try and get a better understanding of where we think that that we may be headed, not just with tax rates, but with assessment policy.
And with that, I would encourage, one of the things that I think is difficult, I didn't know this before I was on council, and maybe you don't either, and maybe you do, but only about a quarter of what we spend comes from local property taxes. I'm not saying that isn't a sizable amount. It's a lot of money. But 75% roughly of what we spend does not come from local taxes. It comes from state and federal monies and other grants and other sources of income, our permits, for example, and so forth. A lot of those, when you're looking to cut things, if you cut money that comes from the federal government, for example, you don't get to spend it on other stuff. It's not like your budget or my budget at home. If you stop spending $100 on something, you have $100 to save or pay down debt or to buy something else. If you don't spend it, Indiana spends it or Idaho spends it if Iowa doesn't. Now, maybe that whole system needs fixing, but in our place, if we don't take that money, your money goes somewhere else, and they will spend it. So sometimes it's not just a matter of cutting something, because if we cut it, it doesn't always mean it's money back in your pocket or it's going to lower your taxes. Because like I say, out of every $4 we spend, one comes from you directly. Now, yes, you do pay federal taxes and you do pay all those other taxes, but we won't get those back. The federal government doesn't give it to us, or the state doesn't give it to us without a lot of strings. Now, a lot of the strings are probably not fair, but they're there. It's take it or leave it. So, I'd encourage you, if you have proposals to cut, bring them forward, and including my colleagues, if you have proposals, bring them forward. But remember, 3 out of the 4 things we spend money on, if you cut it, we don't have any more money. Somebody else gets it. So to save money, you're going to have to cut the 1/4 that the taxpayers does fund. And a lot of that are roads and people that mow and, the police and fire who save your life. So it's not an easy thing, balancing paying for it and getting it done, and nobody's saying it is. Where you get the line, where you draw that line, though, it's not simple.
So there, just because I'm afraid people in the audience are gonna be misinformed. There's 2 ways to assess your debt. One is, what is your debt levy? Because that's how city government repays debt. They assess on a per $1,000 basis property owners to make debt payments. Our debt levy was $220, the lowest in the 22 years I've ever been on the council, and about half of what it started when I was on the council. So we'd substantially paid down debt, not increased it. I would tell you it went up 16.5 cents because of the police station. We were about 30% of our allowable capacity for debt. With the new police station, when we borrow the entire $20 million, we'll be about 50%. So we're certainly not overextended debt-wise. It's difficult to quote somebody who can't answer for themselves, so I don't know why Mr. Jordet would have said that, but again, our debt levy is low, our bond rating is high, and our capacity to add additional debt if we would choose, which we don't. We've been trying to pay down our debt. We still have an additional 100% capacity of what we currently have, because we're only at 50% of the allowable debt limit. So those are the accurate numbers.
I'll be happy to provide you with copies of Mr. Jordet's memo and supporting documentation. I think they do a pretty good job of explaining how he got to the figures that he did, as well as noting what he perceived as problems in the local option sales tax revenue.
Sure, we have a policy 1 time per issue, and you can wait and speak at the end of the meeting if you like, but that's the rules. So,
and I appreciate your response, and we also have a number of reserve funds that we keep in order to answer future needs, if you will, to make sure that we have money at the bank if unforeseen circumstances arise. And the reserve for debt service is proposed to be drawn down, notwithstanding the tax increase. We actually withdraw $4.2 million out of that debt fund in order to pay other expenses. So this is all very complicated.
well, I look forward to you enlightening me on that, because I certainly,
Sure.
those are numbers that I have never seen. So
It comes directly out of the summary that was provided to us, that will be provided to the state upon budget approval. So these are their numbers
Yeah.
going to the state.
thank you. Anybody else from the council? All right, the motion is to postpone until the 13th of March. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Madam Clerk?
Ordinance 6285, to amend the zoning map as adopted by reference in section 15.02.070 by rezoning lots 2 through 20, Gethsemane Gardens, from R1 Residential District to R2 Two-Family Residential District as defined in Chapter 15.09 and setting a public hearing for March 13th, 2017 at 7 p.m.
Move the resolution and set public hearing for March 13, 2017, 7 p.m.
Second.
Is there discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Resolution 6286, to amend Chapter 15.24 Supplemental Use and Site Development Regulations by amending Section 15.24.060, parentheses 3, yard exceptions and permitted intrusions into yard, required yards, and setting a public hearing for March 13th, 2017 at 7 p.m.
Motion to approve.
Is there discussion?
We have a second?
I'll
Oh,
second
I'm sorry.
that. I'll second.
Yep, second. Is there discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Ordinance 6284, to amend Chapter 15.33 Signs of the 2015 Municipal Code by amending Section 15.33.160 Residential District Signs.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Could I ask us to consider 9A after items in 10? In case
Sure, I'm
other
fine with that.
individuals may want to not be heard on the matter. I imagine many are here, so they don't have to wait,
Yeah, I'm good with that.
since they should be quick.
That's fine.
Okay.
So those of you following along, they're going to move 9A to the end of the agenda. It won't take very long, so we'll get there quickly, but we're going to skip that and go to 9B.
Resolution 17-47, resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with Baltimore, Inc. for the Highway 275 lighting project.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there discussion?
That was quite a good price we got.
In comparison to the estimate.
To the estimate and the bids were very fair. Goodness,
Yeah.
good to see.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Resolution 17-48, resolution of necessity and intent to establish an urban revitalization area legally described as Lot 3 of Agra New Horizon subdivision.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there discussion?
Just that this is much needed facility in Council Bluffs. As our population ages, we need more of these type of facilities, and I'm just so happy to see a company coming in and providing that for our citizens.
Yeah, and based on their past projects, it looks like very high quality. It's going to be a really great facility.
They're estimating around 95 to 100 jobs.
Yeah,
Coming to the community.
beautiful, and it'll add to that location, and just gorgeous architecture, and it's something as our population ages, we desperately need more of, places for people to live in independent living or memory care, where you can transition from one part of the facility to another as your needs may change in your life. Just fantastic.
I also support it. I did ask Public Works to consider a traffic study for Valley View Drive for all those who travel that part of town. That's getting to be increasingly busy due to the college and the elementary school, and for all those who rarely get to bounce their way along that road. You know what I mean by the amount of traffic on there. So I did ask that we take a look at that in order to make sure that that road is properly maintained or approved in order to handle the additional traffic.
Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Resolution 17-49, resolution authorizing a joint application to the Iowa Economic Development Authority by the City of Council Bluffs and Tyson Prepared Foods, Inc. for the benefit under the High Quality Jobs Program.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Is there discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Resolution 17-50, resolution approving the environmental covenant of the former Griffiths Bus Barn Trolley Park site to restrict future types of development prohibiting confined spaces.
And I just want to make clear that that is the Kiger Bus Barn site, but I don't know why we called it the Griffin Bus Barn site, but that was the old K&K Bus Barn.
That's far different.
It is
It is
to the
to some
Griffins.
people.
It is to the Griffiths, I imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think we have a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there discussion?
It basically would prohibit people from digging basements in that area because we've spent a lot of money to clean up from the storage tanks that used to be there that leaked. But it wasn't a perfect cleanup because that would have been goodness knows how much more money. So nobody's digging basements there unless they want to spend millions to further remove a ridiculous amount of dirt.
Well, since it's a park.
Well, I would hope not.
Well, and the upside is then we can, that'll kind of put an end to what we've been having to do down there. It'll tie it up so you can't have a confined space, and then we can,
Which is actually why we made it a park, because you can't perforate the
right.
upper crust of the.
Keep that problem sealed.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Resolution 17-51, resolution certifying the 2017 water, sewer, and refuse collection lien schedule for non-payment to the county treasurer.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there discussion?
These are folks who are more than 60 days behind on their water, sewage, or refuse bill, and it gets slapped onto your taxes. It's quite an expense of the number of folks who haven't paid. So I'd encourage you to avoid the late fees and then having the nasty surprise on your tax bill, and help to fund the system because we have to pay the workers to pick up your trash. So please pay on time if you can.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Resolution 17-52, resolution authorizing staffing changes within the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Public Property.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Resolution 17-54, resolution approving the capital improvement plan for fiscal years 2017-18 through 2021-22.
Motion to postpone for same sort of rationale as previously alluded to with regard to the budget.
Second.
Is there discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Applications for permits and cancellations 10A through 10C.
Motion to approve 10A through 10C inclusive.
Second.
Is there discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Now we're going to jump back up to 9A. Just, you're welcome to stay here. If you don't want to stick around for 9A, you're welcome to leave if you want to, so. And again, if you come forward, throw your name and address on the sign-in sheet, please.
Resolution 17-40, resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with HGM Associates, Inc. for engineering services in connection with the West Broadway reconstruction segment 2.
Mr. Mayor, while we're having public discussion, I thought it appropriate that we clarify for the public what we're doing here tonight with regard to the delay.
Yeah. All right, so here's kind of in a nutshell. You know, typically, when we would publish the agenda, you are to speak on the particulars in the agenda. So typically, we would ask that you reserve your comments only for whether or not to hire the engineer. But we know that there are people here for other reasons, and so we're going to allow latitude and allow you to talk about, if you've got my understanding is there's a petition on medians. Some people may want to make some comments on the medians. We value your feedback, and so we're here to listen to you. we'll sit here as long as it takes. If you don't have anything really additional to add to what's been said, though, if you could kind of respect the people sitting here with you and the council and not just get up and say, I agree with what Joe said. If you've got something additional to add, please come forward and give us your input. And so you don't necessarily have to speak on the item, which is hiring the architectural engineering firm. You can talk about the medians if you want, so.
And so that they have expectation as how this moves forward at a future meeting. During the study session, an amendment was offered to the resolution that pertained specifically to the median issue. That amendment that I offered was ruled as not being germane. Therefore, there will not be a vote on that issue with regard to the medians this evening. Mr. Sandow has graciously agreed to craft a second resolution that I will co-sponsor to put this on the agenda at the next available council meeting.
March 13th.
That will specifically deal with that median issue. And so I just didn't want there to be any misunderstanding that the vote tonight was a up and down on the medians, because it's not. If we need to take that another day, we'll take it another day till it gets resolved.
And in fact, when talking with Dick, our legal counsel, I will be bringing, as Al said, I'll be bringing forth a resolution to amend the West Broadway Master Corridor Plan. I think it is very important that everyone here tonight speaks exactly what they think the council and the mayor need to hear. And if you feel the need to come back on the 13th, which I would personally encourage you to, from my personal belief, not from anybody else up here, but I think it's very important that everybody hears what needs to be said tonight as well.
We didn't want you to spend your time coming here and not be heard, so.
And realize what we're voting on tonight is not the medians directly. That issue was part of a master plan that was approved, I believe, 4-1. Could be mistaken. It may have been 3. Was it 4-1? Last October, I believe, or it was last fall in any event. And so council members Ringenberg and Sandow have indicated a desire to ask us to revisit that issue, which any council member certainly is entitled to bring forward a proposal to suggest that we take another look at something. As I indicated this afternoon, in case you weren't here, I, from my perspective, just so you know, I think it's fair to be a straight shooter, to understand where people are coming from. On that issue, those of us who support the medians, including me, and that I was reelected on one of the issues last fall. From my perspective, we've already reduced the size of the medians by 80% without any counter, in a rather large compromise that provided various incentives, including for the local businesses, like the right for their business to always remain open, and to increase the length of the time the project would go to 6 years, which increases the cost substantially for all the other business owner and residents. So I'll be looking as part of the proposals for those individuals who want to move from 20% of medians down to 0. I'll be looking for what they're willing to give up for the taxpayer and for those who wanted the medians, because in politics, it's a compromise, and for one side to win, other sides must win as well. So I'll be interested, particularly from my perspective, so you understand where I'm coming from, to know what you'll be willing to give up to all those who are in favor of the medians and have already reduced it by 80%. So that you know where I'm coming from.
And just to clarify, what we truly are voting on tonight, what's before us, is approving HGM as the engineering firm that we would select to hire. So our vote tonight was on whether or not we felt HGM was the correct engineering firm. And we have been told that even though they'll start right away, because they need to start right away to stay on schedule, the portion that would include medians or no medians is months down the line. So there's not going to be an additional cost. I know some were saying, if we approve this tonight and then change the mind on medians, that's going to cost the citizens more money. We were assured that is not the case, that it will be several months before they even get to that portion of the design phase. So
So in that is why I will be bringing a new resolution to council, because in talking with Dick and everybody up here, in accordance with state law, this is just to hire HGM, and we were all assured at the study session that the master plan is amendable and can be changed, and I will be bringing that change forward at the next council meeting.
All right. Yep. You're on deck. I think you got your name up there, so.
Go ahead.
And this is not a public hearing, so I said earlier, 10 minutes public hearing, 5 minutes on this.
Well, okay, my name's Dave Flavin, 3606 Avenue E. And I guess I don't understand. Are you voting on segment 1 from 32nd all the way to Omaha? Are you voting from 32nd on to wherever?
Phase 2.
Phase
We
2,
aren't
but
voting
only
on-
for the
We aren't
design.
voting on any segment
Well,
tonight.
that's right.
Well, it's,
Well, the
okay.
engineers for phase 2.
Yeah, we're hiring the engineer for segment 2.
Okay.
And not to steal your time here, but that is why I reached out to a number of businesses, and I said, we are voting on the engineering services for segment 2, and that's the wording I used for everybody. And my position was, and it's obvious that there's differing opinions up here. My position was, if we're gonna vote on the engineering services for phase 2, in the master corridor plan, there is a median in phase 2. And that is why I contacted a number of these businesses and reached out to a lot of people. Dick and everybody up here has been saying, it is just to hire HGM. The medians, obviously, I will bring forth to the next council meeting.
People need to be made aware of what we're going to talk about. And so if the intent is to change the master plan, we need to post that 24 hours ahead of time, let the public know that that's what's going to be discussed. And so both proponents and opponents have the opportunity to come and express their feelings. And so that's why we'll do that on the 13th of March.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Yep.
May I set that in the corner right there?
Oh, yeah, you're fine.
And if you,
Do you want to put it where?
because it's kind of a little difficult, if you want to just show us and then show the audience or however you want to do it. Yeah.
Before we show that, just so we're clear, we are going to have an opportunity to have an up or down vote on the medians in the next couple of
wanna say
weeks.
your
Is that
Well,
what we're saying?
So that you're clear, we did in October if council members
No, I
Sandow.
understand that,
if
Nate,
he-
but what I'm
he
asking
brings-
is, are we going to have an opportunity for that in the next couple of weeks?
If Councilman Sandow brings a motion, we'll vote on it,
Okay.
yes.
Is that a resolution or?
What I've asked Roger to do tonight is make a motion that that issue be placed on the agenda, and so we can vote on that, so it'll be officially on the agenda. We'll publish notice in the paper on that, and so we'll conduct a public hearing on that specific issue 13th.
All right, thank you. My name's Jeff Ballinger, 12606 Greystone Court. First of all, thank you for your public service. My dad's here. Dad, where are you at? He served on the council, was mayor, got elected the same year that it was Dad, Chuck Smith, and Tom Hannafin in that order, back in 81? Does this bring back good memories tonight? Okay. So, memories, yes, yeah. Yeah, memories, you said, yeah. You left out the good. But, so thank you. I know sometimes it may seem like a thankless job, but what you're doing is very, very important. So I want to say thank you for that. We did get together with some petitions because we felt that we needed to based on some of the conversations. Yes, Matt, you're right, we were a little bit late to the party. But there's no question that, in my opinion, your responsibility as council members and as mayors to represent us. And if we're late to the party, we're sorry about that, but we're still constituents that deserve to be represented and heard. So these petitions were drawn from people from all walks of life, from businesses, business owners. One of the most interesting comments I got was from Vel McQuant, who raised 15 kids on, I think, 4th Avenue. And she, she's 92 years old. She said, this is a bad idea. Now, I have nothing in common with Val McQuan except for I know her son Philip, but she was going to Mass on Saturday night and just said, this is just really a bad idea. So there's a lot of opinions on both sides of this.
Giggling
But-
because the Baptist was at the Catholic.
Yeah, the Baptist was with the Catholics, so we know that anything is possible. What we'd like to do, I'm here with Jeremy Eichman. Jeremy represents Jimmy John's, And what we wanted to do is put this petition signatures, and this is just as of this morning. And Sharon, I watched a little bit of this, and there's no question that some of these we tried to get the ones from Underwood, Neola, get all those out. Did we get every single one? Probably not, but I think it's pretty accurate. We tried to put this in context as to comparison to your numbers as elected officials. And as you can see, if I can show this, Roger Sandow was the leading vote getter. He may be the newest colleague, but he was the leading vote getter in the city council race with 1,702 votes the last election. Nate, you were second.
7 votes, yes.
1,695.
Yes.
And Sharon, you took third. Congratulations. You guys are all elected, so congratulations. 1,443. As of this morning, we're at 1,751 signatures. So online, this includes both online and door-to-door. So I think that's a pretty significant number of constituencies. That's more votes than anybody there in the council has received. So really there's a 6th seat at that council, and that's called the people. And what the people are saying in essence is we want to be heard, we want to be represented, and we are not in favor of the medians. There's no question there are some proponents to the medians, no question. But as I've shared with Melissa, and thank you for taking my call, Al, thank you for visiting with me, Roger, Sharon today. Nate, I thought it was a lost cause, with all due respect, but I'm encouraged to hear that your grandmother has such good judgment, and she's against the medians also.
Well, at my grandmother's party, yeah. I wish you'd call me, though. I'd like to hear from you directly.
That was very good news. But I guess all I would have to say is, you know, this is a very contentious issue. I make it's akin to a remodel on a house, and there's just an awful lot of people that don't like the shutters. And I just can't believe in this community, with as many people that we have that are, with the abilities that we have, Ron's here, he was part of our leadership class, number 3 with Deb and I, that there's not a way that we can't somehow get together and get this thing squared away. We got a letter today, I don't know if I have it here, here it is right here, from the Council Bluffs Association of Professional Firefighters, and I'll end my remarks with this. My understanding is, in order for it to have this letterhead, it has to go through the union, has to go up to the union boss, and this was dropped off one of our petition sites by a couple of the firemen. Now, I understand one of the firemen said, well, we can get anybody to sign anything, and you can say that about petitions, but the reality is all of you were elected by people signing a petition for you to run for office and to stand for office. So petitions do matter. Here's what this says from the Council Bluffs Association of Professional Firefighters. We, the members of the Council Bluffs Professional Firefighters Organization, are writing to state our public safety concerns on the proposed medians to be installed on the West Broadway corridor. We'd like for you to hear our multiple concerns on the proposed median and how they would negatively affect public safety. With the ever-increasing traffic on West Broadway, the drivers at this time are having a hard time getting to the right. With the middle turn lane as slow as it is now, we are able to safely use the middle lane to get past traffic and respond to the emergency call without delay. With a raised median in the middle of the main route to the majority of our calls on the west end, we will be stopped in the middle of the block waiting for drivers to find a safe spot to get to the right. This unsafe practice of pushing cars to the right would cause unneeded safety risks to the public and emergency responders, with the negative effect of delayed emergency response. With the medians in place, we would have to drive past the business on the opposite side of the median and go to the next opening to perform a U-turn in the middle of Broadway and come back to the address. Our other option would be to take the narrow side streets to go past the addresses and go to the next street and come back to the address of the emergency. Both of these options would cause slower response time than we have now. At this time, when an accident happens on West Broadway, we're able to isolate the lane where the accident occurred, plus the adjacent lane for the firefighters and public safety. The police have the option of using the turn lane or the other lane to keep traffic flowing. With the introduction of raised medians, the traffic will be diverted to side streets that are not designed to safely accommodate the volume of traffic. The police will then be pressured to keep traffic flowing down Broadway, having to take away firefighters and the public safety buffer. Our goal every day is giving the citizens of Council Bluffs and visitors the best emergency response possible. The first way of doing this is responding as quickly and safely as possible to all emergencies. Due to the public and firefighter safety concerns, we want you to know that raised medians will bring the professional firefighters of Council Bluffs. We think the city should rethink the future plans for raised medians on the West Broadway corridor. Thank you for your consideration. Council Bluffs Professional Firefighters International Association, Local 15. This is not the brass. These are the people that are actually, their rear ends are on the line every time that bell goes off. They deserve to be heard. So this is, in my mind, this is no longer a debate about whether these business owners are making too much or little, or have to give up more or give up less, or what Iowa West is or isn't doing. This is now a public safety debate. And my dad likes the pancakes down at Village Inn. I sure hope it doesn't take a while to get to him if something would happen. So thank you for taking time to hear what I have to say. Thank you for looking at our petition. It's ongoing. Be happy to be back here in 2 weeks for the vote. I'm hopeful that you will listen to the folks, and that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Jeff, can I ask a couple quick
Sure.
questions? One, we haven't seen the petition, so we don't know exactly what it says.
We'll
You
be making a
mentioned-
copy and
Yeah,
be happy to drop
perfect,
one off
perfect.
tomorrow morning.
You made reference to an online petition that I read that had a lot of inaccuracies, that people weren't going to be allowed to park on Avenue A, that property values would go down, that the street would have increased traffic and become unsafe. And I just would tell people, look at Second Avenue, and that we turned that two-way 2 years ago. Traffic slower, property values aren't down, and we certainly have no intent to do away with any parking on Avenue A. So I think some people signed because of that. Some people felt that the medians ran the entire length of Broadway, not just 20% of the entire length, and so those things are a little concerning. I would tell you that the police chief was horrified when he saw that letter. He thought that it was really a public safety problem if his firefighters are using a turning lane that has bidirectional traffic to speed through, and that it put the citizens at jeopardy. He was really concerned.
The
So,
fire chief was as well. He actually called me this afternoon and said they're never supposed to use that middle lane, actually, because of the high risk. He said he's not going to say they don't. I mean, they do it, but I know you can't
they're
talk
not
till it's your
supposed
turn
to.
up here, sir. But he did say that that's not.
Okay, well, it's kind of hard to walk back a letter from the union firefighters. I'm just telling you, just
no,
sharing with
I
you.
know you got the letter. I got the letter too. I just know he was
Right,
concerned.
well, let me finish. The mayor asked me some questions, and out of respect, Nate, and I know that you're big on decorum, and I want to go ahead and answer his questions. As far as reduction of value, I know for a fact, because I've been through the median drill twice, once with Todd Archer on 33rd No in Lincoln, and then once on 156 in West Center in Omaha. I know what that does to a business. It cuts the revenues by 35 to 50%. Why? Because your traffic count is now cut in half. So what happens is, and Matt, you were one of my commercial bankers before. So what happens? You get half the revenue. So then when Mr. Appraiser comes by to appraise the business, if you got half the revenue, your business now has half the value. So when you go to sell that business, instead of having a 401k or something, small business people don't have that. Everything is wrapped up in that small business. Now, by no fault of mine, I haven't used different soap. I haven't been rude to customers. I haven't changed anything in my business, but through government overreach, my business is now worth 50 cents on the dollar. And if somebody can explain to me how that's fair or equitable, if you folks were doing this to homeowners, I can promise you, you would have a line all the way to the Missouri River if you were taking a person's house and taking the value and cutting it in half. And that's not a supposition, that's a fact. But that's exactly what you're doing to small businesses when you cut their traffic count in half. And now, more importantly, we have an issue with public safety. So anyway, Matt, I hope that, as far as some of the inaccuracies on the.
No, and that's not what I was.
Go ahead,
gonna
I'm
ask.
sorry.
Mine was about Avenue A. You and I sat down and talked.
Thank you for the time Friday, too. You didn't have to do that.
I'm
You took an hour.
sympathetic
Thank
to you. I understand that your business is an impulse-type business. I understand Atherton's is an impulse-type business to a certain extent. You know, when you're out of gas, you got to go wherever you got to go. But if you got a quarter of a tank, you can choose where you go. And if you can't make the left-hand turn, then you can't make the left-hand turn, and you go to the next business. So I understand how it could adversely affect. I think I read Nick's information that he provided us, and in a uniform theme is non-durable goods and service stations are adversely affected, and I understand that. I would say that there isn't a median in front of Atherton's, and for clarification purposes, but there is one in front of yours, and I fully understand your concern.
Nate, did you have a question?
Well, no, I was just, to add a little bit of levity to the moment, I was just going to say it was very interesting to see you speak very highly of a union, and I want you to.
Sure.
Note
My
that.
grandfather in West Texas was a truck driver, and he
Sure.
worked for minimum wage.
Well,
and was a
I
World War II
appreciate
veteran.
seeing you
So,
look forward
you know
to
what, Nate,
advocate
I've
for the
grown up on
unions.
both sides. It's nice for you to try and demagogue,
No,
but I've actually
I'm
grown
not
up on both
demagogue.
sides of the fence here. So my grandparents in West Texas were broke, and my grandparents here were blessed.
Well, I appreciate that. I would suggest, though, if you want to try to get my vote, you giving up and not calling me is not a good way to do it.
You know what? I will definitely reach out to you this week.
I mean, I've never refused a call from you. I haven't gotten one. So if you want to reach out, and as I've indicated, I am opening to discussing, but I have to see, like, for example, I'm curious from your perspective, the other businesses not on that street, which are a majority in this community, are by definition not on that street, and the residents are paying to extend the project to 6 years so that you don't ever be closed from either direction.
Oh, I'll be closed, trust me, because when
Well-
you have dirty trucks in front of my car wash, nobody will be going in it. But go ahead.
Well, but I'm saying that the taxpayers are stretching it out to 6 years to help in an effort to help your business. Now, if we get out the medians because you say you need that to help your business, but there are lots of other people who wanted them, are you willing to have your business access blocked somewhat so that the taxpayers don't have to spend 6 years to subsidize it?
I'd like to have the project expedited, and let me again say on the record, I've been through construction before, too. I had a car wash over on Military and with the city of Omaha.
Yes.
And look, you guys might as well just shut it down and get it done, because in my particular business, what happens is we have dirty cars. There's dirt everywhere. You're going to be cutting electrical lines. One day I'm going to have service. The next day I'm not. One day I'm going to have access to the internet as far as credit card. The next day I'm not. It's going to be a disaster. Is anybody reimbursing me for that time? No. Am I here to ask for a handout? Small business doesn't do that. We just survive somehow.
Well, then-
So let me finish. So first of all, you're
that
doubling.
was my question.
The taxes are getting doubled on
Yeah.
a lot of folks,
Yeah.
okay? City taxes are going up. Now you're going to put medians in front of our business. What kind of message are you sending to a small business owner in this community? That's a question that the council really needs to talk about in the next 2 weeks before we have a vote on these medians. And I think it's a fair question. To get back to what you're asking, yeah, I'm all for expediting this program. As far as what am I willing to give up, I don't know. I wasn't aware I was getting any subsidies.
You are.
And what are those?
The front of your business.
You know what?
If you apply for them, you'll get 50% at taxpayer cost.
I'll make you the deal of a century, Nate. I will give up any subsidy so I continue to have access to my business.
Well, you cut the project in half so that we can save the other taxpayers 3 years.
I don't
cost.
believe I've ever lobbied to have the project go a certain amount of time. I just want
Well, I'm just
I just want
curious,
access to my business.
If you can convince the businesses on that street to reduce the project to 3 years, maybe we could talk.
I would say that Nick's information, which I did read, thanks for providing it, also indicates that the biggest detriment to businesses is during construction, so.
Well, there's no question.
So if we shut off access one way for 3 years or whatever, and it switches each, we need to talk about that because politics is the art of the compromise, as you say. It can't be, I'm not sure you're aware, but those who were for the medians have already given up 80% of the length of that street.
Well, who are they? Who are these people?
They voted for me. And I'm
Okay,
up
well, they
here
voted for
twice.
you. Well, guess what? There are more that voted for Roger.
Well,
and when there's more that
but
voted
I have to
against
do what
him.
I said I would run for. You would criticize me rightly if I told the
Well,
voters one
let's back
thing.
up. I'm not being critical of you, Nate. I just disagree with your position. And
Fair enough, but I was elected with that position, and so I'm going to honor my pledge to the voters.
So there's no reason for me to call you next week then.
My pledge is if you can find a way to compromise so that those individuals' concerns are met by other means, I'm willing to talk with you. But if you want me to capitulate and give you everything you want, and the people that I promised would have certain things in this election get nothing, then I'm not keeping my word to the people who voted for me.
So, but what you have said, you're on record as saying that you're not going to change your mind on the median, so it's really,
Unless you find a way to meet the goals of what the medians would accomplish through other means. Chiefly, one of the means is through that compromise, the businesses on that street are going to be subsidized for 6 years, which I support as part of that compromise, so that you lose less of the amount of business as possible. But that comes at a significant cost to all the other taxpayers, because it's far more expensive to keep that project going 6 years.
I'm just not sure what the subsidy is.
The subsidy of that is if we shut down the street entirely, we could do it in a year.
No, my
But you'd all
understanding.
be out of
but what
business,
is
so
the
that wouldn't
sub-
be fair to you.
What is the subsidy? So you're saying the subsidy is you're drawing the
There's a
project out?
beautification subsidy.
Well, there's a beautification subsidy, but there's also the subsidy of the added time of the opportunity cost of that money. Paying for it over 6 years is a heck of a lot more expensive, which I think is fair to your businesses because it allows one way to stay open each direction the entire time. You know, not literally every minute, but most every minute to stay open. But that adds considerable costs that the other businesses and residents are paying for.
Well,
I think that's appropriate. But the problem is you ask too much, in my view. You want that.
Yeah, heaven
I don't
forbid
think
I
you're-
want to keep my business open.
But the problem is all the other
These
businesses.
folks need a paycheck, Nate.
But
They
see-
work for a living. They
Yes,
need a
but
paycheck.
So do I, sir.
Well,
But-
fantastic.
Yes, but the thing is we always, you have to remember, we represent 63,000 people.
That's right.
And so we have to balance all of these interests, sir.
Right.
Not
So
just yours.
No, I
just
well, I
yours.
don't think it's just, well, according to our petition, and we'll conclude
Out of
with this.
63,000 people,
According
yes.
to our petition, it's not just my interest, and I think by the showing that we have tonight, and by the way, I had many, many calls from people that said, I'm not going to come tonight if there's not going to be a vote. They said, I'll be happy to come when they vote, because I'm not going to come twice. No disrespect to the council.
No,
They
no.
just didn't want to come and put their ears in the seats and sit through 2 hours, okay? So I think we had a nice turnout tonight. I know from the petitions, obviously, I know that we've got your attention as far as how people feel about this. And I hope, and I know several of you.
I just want you to reach out to those who do support them, which I appreciate you realize there are people who do support them.
You know what? That's not my responsibility, Nate.
It's not your responsibility to help me find a way for a win-win here?
Yeah, I can work with you, and I am working with you by being
Okay,
patient with
I'm-
this whole process. I mean, fully came here tonight expecting us to have a vote on the medians, so.
Well, that's not how we
5
work.
minutes. You're still some of his 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's your councilman that keeps asking me questions.
Well,
Thank you.
Jeremy, you can have 5 minutes if you want, right?
Yeah.
And
You know, I'll be
you're with Jimmy?
No,
Just
we-
give us that here, yeah.
we don't, no, let's not let that start.
My name is Jeremy Eichman. I'm with Jimmy John's. I live at 159th Street in Omaha. And I won't repeat everything, obviously. I'm standing beside him, you know where my stance is. You asked earlier, though, what are you willing to give up? I heard your
Yes.
subsidy. It's like a blue sky subsidy because what I do with our businesses, I pick out locations. I develop locations. We do an in-depth everything from traffic count to whatever. And that's honest. I mean, that's how I make my living is by being good at that. And, we have 48 restaurants throughout different parts of the country. If I wasn't good at it, we wouldn't be growing. So my concern then comes back to what are you willing to give up? Well, we'll give up property value. I promise you we'll give up property value because that's what I do is assess property value. When we put a median in front of something that doesn't have a median in front of it now, it will go down in property value. So if you own the business, I know that's your opinion, but I'm speaking on fact.
Do you own the businesses in Lincoln?
We do not own the businesses in Lincoln. We own the three here in Council Bluffs. We own the property specifically on 16th Street.
If you check the owner of the Jimmy John's on Lincoln and when they added a median, their property has gone up and their business has gone up.
Okay, I'll
check it out.
certainly discuss it with them.
They beautified their area and theirs went up.
You're talking about the one downtown Lincoln
Yes,
specifically?
yes.
Downtown, okay. So
They added a dedicated bicycle lane, as a matter of fact, as part of their median project, and theirs went up.
So if we really want to get into other cities, Jeff took all my paperwork, and I had several different pieces of information, and I will be glad to send you guys. And there's thousands of articles. If you want to just Google, you can find thousands of articles that talk about businesses. And these aren't articles from cities saying, hey, they went up. Because I read a lot of those too that were put out by the cities that put in medians saying, yes, their businesses increased. Those were by the cities that did this, but these are from the business owners, 57% decrease in sales, 90% decrease in sales, no access for 8 months during the project. I lost $4,800 a month in sales for a small little grocer. These are all, just, I wouldn't say generic, but specific instances of exactly what happened. There's publications, the right-of-way publication, which is it's like a business journal for similar projects like this. City planner in there wrote, there will be winners and there will be losers for the available customer dollar when a new median is installed. That's by a city planner. I mean, they know this going in, and obviously we understand that. There's going to be winners and losers. I think we all talked about who decides who gets to be the winner and the loser, and the people with the median in front of their businesses will just be the losers in this situation. And I won't go on anymore with that, but that's where I'm at. So, there's plenty of proof. We'll send you all this. We'll send you all of our petition information. You're more than welcome to have access to it. We gain about 30 signatures a day. So you represent, like you mentioned, the amount of constituencies that you represent are are more like 1,600, Nate.
we-
That's
we-
what voted for you.
Well, we represent 63,000.
You do,
have
yes.
You always have to remember that the difficult thing about this job is if you want to make friends, you never go into public service.
I understand.
Because I guarantee you, we joke about it, but even to go get milk, people will get mad at you and tell you what they think, which is you're right.
Sure.
But sometimes you just want to get milk, But ultimately, whatever decision we make makes somebody mad. And I just want people to understand that all of us, even people who disagree with all of us up here, I'm convinced every single one of us is trying to do the best we can and comes at it from a different perspective. I'm just trying to tell you for the people that the point of view I represent, I'm just being straight with you. I could sit here and be quiet. That'd be the politically smart thing to do, frankly. But I don't think that's being honest with you. Because I want you to know where I'm coming from so that if there's a way to meet those concerns, you can meet them. Because most of your concerns, I agree, are legitimate. Okay, I happen to, when you rank them, I think the medians at 20% outweigh them, but I respect you disagree, and you've got facts to back up your position too. There's evidence. It's not a slam dunk either way. I'm just being very honest with you. But if you're going to meet the concerns, if you want to get my support, and not just automatically assume that, well, why even bother? You got to meet the concerns of people. Look at it from my perspective. We went from, it was never going to be 100%, but it was much higher than 20. So if we reduce that, but yet we kept the project open so long to try to, which I thought was a good compromise, so that we tried to keep both ways open, and the business subsidies on the side for beautification, all those pieces together were part of the compromise we agreed last October. If we're going to renegotiate the deal, when you renegotiate a deal, it's not going to be 100% your way when you try to amend a deal. What are you going to try to do to meet the concerns of those individuals who aren't on that street or who don't primarily use that street, which is a lot of people? That's all I'm saying to people is I get frustrated, and I apologize, but I get frustrated because I just hear, this is what we want. But what I need to hear from you, if you want to negotiate, is what are you willing to give up to meet the other people's concerns halfway? Because we already did this once in October. And so I need to know why we'd reopen it. That's all I'm saying, and I apologize if I was short.
I will go back and get even more facts for the next vote, absolutely. So, okay.
I appreciate that.
Can I ask a quick?
Sure, you
Yeah. One thing that I think would be helpful, I was completely for the medians in October when we went through the plans for the last year or two. I'm open to it now. I'm hearing more people are having concerns, but I also think there has to be something done down there. Right now it's just a big straightaway. There's accidents, there's safety concerns. You've got businesses in other places. I know, Jeff, you mentioned you do as well. I'm sure there's several people out here that have done. I would love some ideas that would be presented to Roger to present in 2 weeks.
Certainly, yeah.
Of what could we do to still help with some of these problems, to help with the beautification, to help with the safety without medians. So for everybody listening, that's something I would love to hear. What are some alternatives? That would really help me. If I could see there's still something we could do, that would be great. So I just wanted to.
I have a question as well, and I guess set the context for the question and prior comments by quoting the late President Reagan, who said, compromise on a horrible idea at best gets you a slightly less horrible idea. Having said that, your business, as you stated, is to make evaluations of potential locations with a determination of whether or not it's going to be profitable to have a franchise in that location. Did I understand that correctly?
Correct.
Okay. So based upon your professional expertise, we've been talking a lot about studies and how it affects values in other cities and how they've had great reactions to these things after they're built. My question to you would be, when you evaluate whether or not you're going to place a business here in Council Bluffs or on West Broadway, how important is it to you, the business conditions that you find for the Jimmy John's in downtown Omaha?
Well, the business in Jimmy John's downtown Omaha is extremely different than the business on West Broadway. The parking factor is obviously the biggest. Those two are not the same, not even close. Sales-wise, they could never potentially be close. But I could tell you, I could speak on median interference and opportunity around it would be like an access road, for example. Access roads, we put Jimmy John's on non-left turns or on only left turns when there's an access road or when there's another means of getting off the main road, driving past and coming back through without having to go, a block behind and then another block up and guessing which block I got to turn up because I went by 2 or did I go by 3 blocks? I can't remember now. And that's the issue is when we put them where there's already a median, it's because there's an access road or there's other means of getting to that business through visibility. You lose the visibility once you have to make the left that goes past it. That's the biggest concern for our business specific, and I think I would assume, I'm not speaking for everybody, but that's the big thing, is when you lose that first turn and you lose the visibility of the business, you lose opportunity for the business. And we are not Hy-Vee, for example, they're going to have a great entrance to. That's fantastic. I plan to go to their grocery store. I don't ever drive by and say, oh, crap, I need to go spend $200 at the grocery store today. I forgot about that. And I know when I'm going to go to the grocery store. But I don't always know if I'm going to grab a Jimmy John's or if I'm going to grab Taco Bell or what I'm going to grab. And it's kind of opportunity. That's our business. That's 100% of our business. And thank goodness that we're a business that does deliver. That's the only factor that could keep us through this and would maybe keep us alive during the construction phase. But, I work with our owner every day, and he's very confident that if we start to lose sales to the point where we can't justify the business and we foresee another year of it, we'll have to close and we'll move. I don't know if we'll keep a business here. That's not a threat. It's just we've done it before if we see a possibility that we can't survive a year of it. You got to make payroll. You got to. So, there. Any other questions? Sorry.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I don't get a vote, but I get to talk. So, I know when Melissa mentioned accidents, and there were some puzzled looks in the crowd. So, West Broadway, in the last 4 years, had 369 accidents. Now, which is more than 2.5 times the state average.
The last 4 years, 2010 to 2014. Sorry.
Well, not the last 4, in a 4-year time frame, as Roger says, from 2010 to 2014. They recorded 369 accidents. If you use a standardizing mathematical equation so that all streets have the same traffic flow, the expectation would be 250 crashes for the 3 segments they've defined. Those segments being 35th to 28th Street, which after the statistical evening would have had 496 crashes when 250 is the state average. 28th Street to 21st Street had 113, but doing the statistical mathematics means they would have had 435 at the state average traffic flow and the state average is 250. So, and then the worst stretch is 21st Street to 16th Street, which had 136 accidents, 53 of which had bodily injury or were fatal. The other 2 were 36 between 35th and from 28th to 24th, 45. But the statistical adjustment would indicate 789 wrecks out of 250. So you can see the accidents on West Broadway are significant, and a lot of that is just to the unbridled left-hand turn. So,
And people driving in the lane,
yep.
which is illegal.
Sir.
Mark Tompkins again. Just a couple of observations. We talk about 63,000 people being represented, but I don't think the people that own businesses should be given short shrift for the people that don't have businesses there. Secondly, I would just be curious, the gentleman just spoke, probably a professional is what he does. Is there anybody on the city council that's got that degree of expertise?
In which subject?
What he just talked about.
I don't know what
finding and
subject.
placing businesses.
Business?
Yes,
Degree?
Mr.
Do you have the same degree of expertise about finding business locations that he does?
No, sir, I don't have any degree in business.
you.
I have them in other
So
subjects.
I just have one question. We keep hearing about the people that are in favor of this. He's got a petition that's got signatures that you can identify by name. Will you publish the people that are in favor of this?
You want me to disclose the names of people who said they would vote for me?
Well, that you bring up an ancillary question. Did everybody that voted for you vote for you only because of that issue?
I have pretty progressive views. If they voted for me, they were probably for the medians.
But you can't prove that one way or another.
I didn't have very many people who'd
Thank
be
you.
against medians voting for
So-
me, I assure you.
You have no list of people in favor of this.
Just to be fair, Nate, we probably had some people that voted for both of us.
That's probably true, but
I'm just saying.
but sir, I have pretty progressive liberal views. If you voted for me, you voted for medians, probably.
But to answer your question, no, right now there's not a petition going around saying that people are for medians because right now the plan is to have the medians. So you normally
Well,
wouldn't have a petition.
You've approached it as though it's a fait accompli, as though the
right
public
now it
has
is.
no input.
No,
But
we're
they did.
re-looking, we're
They
reopening
did.
it.
We're a republic. We have elections.
We had
had
public
public-
meetings,
right,
we had a public
meetings,
hearing. There was a lot of public input in the beginning, and they don't have a petition right now, like Melissa said, because they didn't
that was
know there
over.
was any reason to have one. They didn't know that this was gonna come back up. so.
Exactly.
Well, that, and I sure hate voting for somebody who then turns around and does something different than they promised me when they were running. And so people complain about that an awful lot. And so if you say you're going to vote a certain way and people vote for you and then you vote that way, I kind of thought that's how our system's supposed to work. And then if you want to vote for somebody else, vote for somebody else. That's how our system works.
Yes, sir.
David Orr. I live at 2556 Avenue L. Have a business at 17th and Broadway. I just wanted to put a couple thoughts out there. One thing, last time I was at a meeting for this, you mentioned that Broadway has the longest stretch of road without a median down it as of anywhere else. The facts you put out as far as the wrecks, how many of those are pertaining to people turning and not people trying to stop at a yellow light and not get a ticket in the mail and somebody else running into them? I know that's a lot of them. I watch them happen.
Yep.
The other thing you want is you want businesses like Lincoln has and like Des Moines has and these university places that we don't have one of those here.
Yeah,
It's
we
a
do.
different kind of demographic. You got a lot of blue collar workers here. There's not a lot of white collar workers, the kind of businesses you're wanting to bring here. That screen behind you says, unlike anywhere else, on purpose, except for you're purposely trying to make it like everywhere else, or, I mean,
Thank you.
Before you go, quick, I wanted,
Yeah,
I made this
we did not
comment
respond to
at
everybody.
the study session as well. And some of this was done before I was on council. A lot of it was the public hearings, different things when I was on council. However, I said at the study session, a lot of these, majority of you businesses, I would say, probably knew West Broadway was going to be reconstructed. However, when you got the public notice, when you had somebody knock on your door, or when there was something sent out in the mail that said, West Broadway is going to be reconstructed. If you want to come look at the plans, come on. If you don't, no big deal. But nobody said, when they knocked on your door and said West Broadway is going to be reconstructed, nobody said there's going to be a median in front of your property. So that, to me, would state that if nobody told me just West Broadway was going to be reconstructed, great, I'm for that. But if somebody walked up and said, there's going to be a median in front of my property, I think a lot of these business owners would have been involved a lot sooner, as you're saying most of them should have been. So and I said that at the study session, I think that's where I see a lot of these businesses coming from.
Or what about during the election when we talked about these in the paper and in forums and on Facebook and in public? And we stated our positions, and you and I disagreed,
Absolutely.
and we both got elected. So
I know, I'm just telling you what.
I'm just saying that there are, and again, it's a criticism of all of us.
I agree.
And I always said, I'll tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And one of the things is we need to just get better at cluing in to be involved and stay involved and look at these issues.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of times we don't.
Nate, I would never tell you something I didn't think that.
I
to hear.
agree with
That'll
you.
be no-
I just wish people would be more involved.
I agree.
Hi, my name's Stephanie Party. I live at 2556 Avenue L. And I guess one of my concerns with the project moving forward, the first segment was just bid. And do you know how many bidders showed up?
Just one.
Yeah, it's a very difficult project.
Yeah. Okay, so part of the concern with that is the fines for the delays in the water work overnight. So, I mean, moving forward, aside from all these businesses being so upset, how many contractors do you expect to want to pull their trucks up in front of these angry business owners' doors, watching them upset, closing their doors, and moving off Broadway?
So just for clarification, we did have one bidder, you're right. And really, there were associated penalties if you did not get done in time, because we don't want the businesses shut down over the winter when they can't construct. And so start in April, be done by November. If you're not done by November, then there's an associated penalty. And
there's
we
also
think that-
nightly
yeah,
penalties
that we did think that.
for water.
Yeah.
That was a conservative proposal, which I supported, and I'm not sure it may have even been unanimous, but it was a conservative proposal that that the contractor ought to respect the private business, and the government ought to get its work done on time. And so the flip side of that was, by the way, if they were done early, they get incentives. That's a very conservative business approach.
So really, we've tried to be as business-friendly as we can be during the construction. I've been publicly encouraging people to continue doing business during construction. We think that's important. We want them in and out. The fact that we want to keep a lane in each direction open so people can get to those businesses really concerns some contractors, but we said no. We made a commitment to that and to the businesses, and so that was part of the reason why we only had one bidder. But
you're not making a commitment to protect the contractor either, so you're paying a higher price for the job.
Well, that's a tough thing. We had to make a choice, and that was part of that whole compromise. I was talking about how to try to keep as best we can, and Mr. Bellinger had a good point about how it will never be 100%, and he's right, but try as much as possible to keep it open both direction the whole time. But to do that, you really have to hold a contractor feet to the fire to have an incentive to get it done early and a disincentive not to. And
I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware.
Oh, yeah, that made it harder to
That's the
get
reason you have one bidder show
Oh, you're
up,
right. You're
and you
right.
pay more for a job.
We have penalties.
You're right.
Like on everything we bid for time and performance.
and actually, it came in within 1% of the estimated bid, so
And
it wasn't a especially high bid.
Oh, you're right. It did
But
cost more to
on
try
the
to
other
help the
hand, a
businesses.
typical streetscape, how many bidders do you have show up?
It depends on the
Three
project.
on average?
Three to
We
five.
thought we would have two, but frankly, the construction phasing that we did so that businesses weren't hurt cost us bidders. I'm not
Convinced
quite
of it.
sure that
Convinced
the
of it.
argument makes sense to me, because the reason there was only one is we wanted to take care of businesses.
Agreed. That was part of the deal.
But it still reverts back to having a bad name on a contractor when they're doing business on a street that businesses don't want done.
Well,
I
don't
think
think
I
so,
see.
no.
I think
She
I
thinks
see.
they didn't bid because the businesses along Broadway would be mad at them for doing the job.
Yeah, I don't think that was the case. but-
I get it.
Or because they didn't want to put negative feelings towards other businesses in town.
that could be, I suppose.
It actually was done by Hawkins, and it's the first time other than the interstate that they bid a project.
But I have no doubt it did cost more to do that, but it was a compromise to help the businesses in the area, which is why it was right.
And she thinks it's because of the businesses down there would be mad at them.
Deb,
Yeah, I don't think
doing it
that's quite
for-
right.
Because of the medians.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, you're the kind of the coup de
suppose.
grace. Maybe we ought to let the other ones go before you stick the.
If you would like to go, so you're welcome. Ladies and gentlemen of the council, members of the public in the audience here tonight, I'm Deborah Peterson. My husband and I are taxpayers in your community. Our businesses are across the street, starting at 215, 217, 219, 219 and a half, and 231 South Main. We do not own any property on West Broadway. However, we do patronize our businesses in the community. I have many clients in the community who do business there as well. You've heard all the business side of things. I'm not going to do the business side of things because my business isn't on West Broadway. I think all their concerns are valid as a small business owner myself. But everybody sitting behind the bar here has less experience talking here than me, including your city attorney, because I was here before him. And this is my third or fourth, because I can't keep track anymore, time of coming before the council and telling you that I think you're making a mistake. And maybe this council will look at these things and make some reasonable accommodation for not only these businesses, because it's not just about everybody west of 16th Street. We all pay our taxes. It's every taxpayer. It's not just those west. And I've come here before because I've said, you know what? In 1982 or 84 or 87, I don't want bricks in my street in front of my business. And then I came back in 95 or 2000 and said, you know what, I don't want bricks in front of my street. And we did it 3 times on West Broadway. We've done it in other locations, and it's a mess. I just encourage you to go out and look at these things. And there was articles in the paper, and the proponents, who I don't know who they are, one of the things they talked about are the different medians that we have right now and how great they are, okay? So I challenge you, I live west, I don't live in the city either, so I don't get a vote for you. I wish I did. I'd like to vote based on the amount of property tax I pay, but I don't get to do that. But every morning I come to town on Highway 6, and if you start at the Railroad Highway, which is also known as 191 in the Kmart intersection, from there to North Broadway, there is a median. Please drive that tomorrow, next day, sometime in the next 2 weeks preferably, and you'll notice that there are no real businesses that do not have access. In fact, the state spent $1 zillion making an extra left-hand turn lane for Casey's, and I've never seen anybody use it. But it's there. You can get to Fairway, you can get to North Avenue Towers and all of their properties, you can get to Super Saver and all of those at a lighted, controlled intersection. So none of the businesses are suffering there, so I don't think that's a fair analogy. And maintenance, if you want to know maintenance, I know it's winter and it looks bad now, but you know, last spring they're going to put all sod down and that's all nice in front of Fairway, and then they ran out. And they never did anything. It just grew to weeds. So we're not able to take care of those. And really, if we have $500,000 to spend a year on maintenance, look at something better to spend that money on. One of the other comparisons was the 100 block. Well, you really can't compare that because that's one lane of traffic, parallel parking on both sides. Take your life in your hands getting out of your car. And if you run up there today, you will see that both ends of that median have been knocked to crap by your snow plows. And that's another thing. What about your snow guys? Has anybody asked them how great and handy it's going to be to, you know, get this snow off of Broadway with the median? So I think that's an important factor as well. In the 100 block, you have more foot traffic. Somebody mentioned South Expressway, and I guess it must be a different South Expressway than I know, because I don't know of any medians there that aren't concrete barricades or mud holes while we're doing the construction right now. Veterans Memorial certainly does have a small median. I don't remember if it has a lot of plantings in it, but you're talking speed limit there at least 45 miles an hour. And I don't see the types of businesses at that location that these ladies and gentlemen here on West Broadway have, that we talk about the impulse and we need to drive there and we're planning to go to wherever. Nate, you wanted to ask about, you know, what are these guys going to give up? What are these gals going to give up? Well, what do you want them to give up, number one? But number two, the question that's here is beautification. Yes, you say there's a safety issue. Other people say there's not. We can all look for surveys that say what we want them to say. That happens.
Just like
but
case law, yes.
if we're talking about beautification, there are many other options available. I would encourage you to look at 25th Street and Hy-Vee and First National Bank there. They don't have medians, but they've done a beautiful job of landscaping their areas. The same is true in front of the Omni Center and the Ogden Place. That was city work that was done. We have the nice little postcard placards there that you can walk around and look at. So I think that one. Now, if you want to see some really nice medians, then don't forget to drive down Harry Langdon Boulevard, because you get to see all of the plastic and all the crap that's been there. That hasn't been maintained for 3 years. And don't forget North 16th Street as well, because you got semi-trucks going up there all the time. And I'm sure there's no semis on Broadway, but they're going up North 16th Street and they're just tearing those bricks up as well. And so that's a real problem, I think. Couple other questions and things that other people have mentioned too is, one of the things I want to mention is bricks. I don't like bricks in Iowa because it freezes and it thaws. And if you don't believe me, walk out of this building tonight, walk across Main Street, and you don't even have to walk across Main Street because tonight I stopped on the way out from this afternoon, and the gap in your own sidewalk violates your city ordinances because it's almost an inch wide with nothing in it. And what gets in there? Dirt. Then what happens? Weeds. Then what happens? Somebody has to take care of it. And that's these guys and gals that are going to have to take care of it on West Broadway. I have to take care of it. My husband takes care of it over here. You know, so it's a pain for those things to be done. Are there other options for beautification? I believe absolutely there are. And you can ask your engineer. He was here earlier. Oh, yeah, there he's hiding right there in the second row. And the guy in the white shirt, he can certainly come up with some options for you to consider on those things. And the other thing, I heard a couple comments that, well, you know, we don't want to do this because that's just Jimmy John's, or that's just Jeff Ballinger's car wash, or that's just whatever. Look ahead. I don't know how long. If Jeff Ballinger wins the lottery tomorrow, I don't know if he's going to stay in the car wash business. So I don't know that that's going to be a car wash forever. I don't know if Matt and Nick Atherton are going to be in the gas station business forever. Maybe they're going to open a Jimmy John's when that guy moves down the street because he's closed. So I don't think you should make decisions based on who's here, who's not here. I think that the theme of this group that says yes to Broadway, yes to beautification, yes to improvements, yes to lighting, yes to all of these great things, and no to medians results in what I think I have to attribute to Nick said, there are no losers. We're not picking winners and losers if you just don't put the medians in. And I'll go with Nate's idea that if you're going to vote against them, then just vote them all out and don't go through this 6 or 8 times. Last couple things I just want to mention. Don't forget this upkeep. You know, they look great. The plantings out here on the corner when you guys planted in them cute little mosaic tiles all over, they looked really nice when we put them in. They look like crap now, and I'm sorry, but that's the truth. And if you just go look at them, you will see that. And I also don't understand, and maybe I'm reading the plans wrong, but it looks like some of those turn lanes are made of bricks. And if they're
concrete.
It's all colored concrete, no bricks.
No bricks.
There are bricks in this plan.
Not in the street.
Not in the
Not in the
street,
streets. It
not
looks
where
like it.
vehicles
But they're
go.
in the medians and in the sidewalks.
There's a
The proper
new
bricks.
product.
If you go up to my neighborhood, they last reset them in
I think there may be
1882.
some pavers in the street.
If you done properly, the bricks that they were put on West Broadway now are crap. Those are not even paver bricks
Nate,
for
it's
residential.
the third set of bricks they've put on West Broadway.
I agree.
It's not
I
big
agree,
bricks.
and those aren't part of this plan. I agree, those are crap.
The
Agreed.
other problem that you have on
deny
West
that.
Broadway is you will see kids, little kids, running across the street at all times. And so having medians is going to implement that worse. And if you don't believe me, you can sit up in front of Kern Junior High at the time we're having school in or out or at the lunch hour, and they dart through all those things from over on the hospital side through those we made little brick pavers through there for them so they could get through all the big trees and weeds. So, I think you really should look at the options. I think that's really what these people want to see. They're not against progress, and they're here tonight because, to use someone's words from 2 weeks ago, they don't want to hear that ship has sailed. And once you make this contract, I agree. I heard Ron tell you today that if you change your mind in 2 weeks or 30 days, it's not going to cost you anything. And I think that's probably true. And if you want to have alternate plans, yes, that's going to cost you a little extra. But what this group doesn't want to see happen is that they get 6 months down the road and you guys say, oh man, we're there. And Ron comes in and says, yeah, well, this is going to cost you X hundred thousands of dollars to make these changes because the ship has sailed. And so they're trying to get here before the ship leaves the shore. Thank you very much. I appreciate your consideration.
Deb, you lost a pen.
Jody, is the window still open, or did Deb just turn up the heat?
I just turned up.
The only thing I'd say is I was going to say I remember, but I don't because I wasn't alive. I've seen the photographs of the last time we redid the street, and in fact, I spent much of my childhood in Underwood, in the house that was built out of bricks from West Broadway when it was removed. A gentleman by the name of Mr. White in Underwood built the ranch-style house. So I grew up in West Broadway, in a way, and I know that house was built in 1950, and so I know, and I went and double-checked to make sure this story was right, and there was a story in the Nonpareil when the gentleman was building it, and I also checked the records, and the last time we rebuilt the street was indeed 1949, 1950. That street is designed for 1950. I don't know many businesses that still operate as if it's 1950. And there's an unfortunate belief among some, which I do not share in the least, that Council Bluffs can't have nice things. I do not share that in the least. This idea that, you know, we see these in other cities right around us, not just Omaha. Pick cities in Iowa our size. You see, like a Dubuque, for example, is roughly our size, within 1,000 or two. They have these nice things. Now, for a lot of the 20th century, we didn't do a lot of these things, okay, in our community. We're starting to do these things again. We did in the 19th century, by the way, which is why our town became very large and prosperous, because of the 19th century. We kind of, in many ways, for a couple decades there, from what I can tell, kind of gave up in many large ways. Now, you can disagree with me, but it's a hard truth, but ask how many of you, depending on your age, of your kids or grandkids moved away from Council Bluffs and raised their family elsewhere. I would imagine a good number of you. I came back, and I imagine at least speak for the three youngest of our colleagues, and they can correct me if I'm wrong, but I came back because I see the great potential of our community, and I want to grow old here and continue to raise my extended family here. But as part of this, we have to be willing to get past this idea that the glass is half full, you know, or half empty, excuse me. This idea that we can't have these nice things. They might work other places, but they won't work in Council Bluffs. Well, that really speaks very badly of our people. And we've got good, hardworking people. Why can't we have nice turn lanes? Why can't we have trees? Why is it only other places and we have to settle for 3 miles of asphalt like it's 1950? You know, if you want to encourage more of your kids and grandkids to stay here, ask them why they leave. They want to see more jobs. If your goal in life is to not have more jobs come in, particularly jobs of the new economy that the millennials and youngers will do, so that we can continue to afford to do things, then keep doing what we did in 1950. Because you're going to keep having people around who were from 1950. You won't have any new. And that's just, it's true. If you ask people and ask your kids or grandkids who moved elsewhere, I chose to come back. I put my money where my mouth is because I love it here. But part of that is telling you uncomfortable truths, that if you keep doing what worked in 1950, you're only going to keep the people who were alive in 1950. And that's not, no disrespect to them, but that's not a long-term solution for a viable future in our community. It just isn't. And it speaks, and it unfortunately is this idea that Council Bluffs is less than, and we are not.
David,
Yes, sir.
if you hold on one second, David. Nate, I said this at the study session. You referred to 1950 and putting the road back to the way it was again.
Yeah.
We just put in a 5-lane road with 2 lanes going each way and a turning lane in front of Dick's, Target, all those businesses out there.
Would you consider that a major throughway like West Broadway?
It is the busiest part of our community, Nate.
You think it has 20,000 vehicles on it?
I think it's one of the busiest parts of our community. It's
Busier than
brand
West
new.
Broadway?
Pardon me?
Busier than West Broadway?
I'd have to see a traffic. I couldn't tell you that. However,
I'd be
it's
fair
not
enough.
1950, but it's the newest part of our community, and it is probably one of the busiest parts of our community.
It's a
and
different
it's 2
situation.
lanes
Yeah, it's a
both
different-
ways
it's a different
and a turning
situation.
lane.
It's a different situation.
Well, I'm just saying that
No,
it's not 1950s. We just did it.
I know, but it's not a 3 mile long on the main front door of our community. To me, those are different.
I just want to point out.
We can research it.
Fair.
Dave?
Just wanted to tell you.
I know, I
Now,
appreciate
Dave,
that. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be
Make sure
short.
Deb gets her client list back when you get to
That's what she's.
That's
I don't
funny.
think she heard.
David Drake, 2909 6th Avenue. I'm the owner of Metro Pawn and Loan on 30th and Broadway. You know, I can't add much to what Jeff and Deb have said. I mean, they've said exactly what I want to say. I guess my main concern is exactly what she brought up. We're going to vote on hiring an architectural firm to draw up the plans for something that we're talking about changing. It makes no sense. Why would we hire somebody to build or to draw up the plans before we have decided if we're going to talk about doing away with the medians?
Well, and Roger's committed to.
And I think that should be tabled as well as the median.
Roger's committed to bringing a proposal in 2 weeks. The things that the architect do are not, and the engineer, is not just to sit down and start drawing the final plan. They need to locate utilities, they need to identify easements, they need to identify property lines. All those things take time, and so that's what they'll do initially, and so we'll still have time to make changes.
And that assumes he has 3 votes, which he might, but, you know, every law can be changed with 3 votes.
Well,
So
and Nate, I want to bring up, and you've brought this up numerous times tonight. You keep talking about that we've gone from 80% to 20%.
Yes.
And then you say if we give up the 20%, you want us as business owners to kick something in. Now, every time that you go and you redo a street everywhere else in the city, and you redo the sewers, or you redo anything, do you go to the people on that street and say, what are you going to give up before we do this?
You know, if we're going to redo a completely new street and take 6 years of the taxpayers' added expense, so to less in the inconvenience to you, which I support, we don't do that. If you ask the residents, we get calls and emails all the time from people. They really like a new street in their neighborhood, but they're really annoyed for the year they have to walk 3 blocks to their car, especially when it's 40 below and it's snowing. So we give them nothing. We push the project through quickly so that we can do it at the cheapest cost.
Well,
we don't extend the project so they can get to their house. We don't do it for businesses anywhere else. I can't find in our records where we've done it for any other street of business.
Well, I don't think that you're doing this just for business. You've got 20,000, 40,000 vehicles traveling on that street. You can't just shut that street down.
Yes, we can. We can shut A. We shut Broadway Viaduct. We could have shut the whole thing and saved money. We've got A, we've got G. We could do it. I'm not saying it would be pleasant, but it could be done and it would save a heck of a lot of money. But in the end, we thought, you know what, that wasn't fair because that's going to put a lot of the business, especially the mom and pop,
But
West
just because
Broadway
we
out of
don't
business.
want a part of it, why should we have to give up?
Because
give
the
up?
taxpayers are giving you something they've given to nobody else.
But we are the taxpayers. All these people here tonight,
but you are
they're
not a
taxpayers also, and they
Indeed.
don't want part of what you're pushing down our throat.
But you're not the only taxpayers, and we have to
You are
answer
correct.
to the whole group, the vast majority of whom are not you. So we have to, your concerns, I'm not saying your concerns don't matter, but they matter as much as every other
Okay, we can
person's.
rehash it. We'll hopefully, when Roger puts the amendment.
Well, if it's all or
whatever out.
nothing, I don't know if you're going to get 3 votes. Maybe you will, but then I would say my colleagues are going to have to go to all the other people in town and say, why did you give such a special break to them and give them everything they wanted?
Well, I don't think you're giving us everything we want, but.
Well, if you get the
And I'd
medians
like
away,
to
you
see
would.
those 1,695 voters that voted for you solely for the medians.
I am a very liberal person. If they voted for me, they voted for progressive ideas. They didn't vote for 1950 streets.
Okay, the street, let me ask you this. You said that Broadway hasn't been redone since 1950.
Not completely, no.
Okay, the street that you talk about out front of your house has pavers.
Yes.
And you said they're from the 1800s.
Not on my section of the street, but further up,
Okay,
yes.
but those are
1882.
still there. They haven't redone those, and those are fine.
Yes, because we used to build them with better bricks, which is what, in this proposal, to the mayor's point, the parts where the cars will be driven.
I'm not
is
talking
actually-
about the bricks. I'm talking about the fact that you're saying Broadway needs to change because it hasn't been changed since 1950.
I agree.
Broadway itself doesn't need to change.
At all? The street doesn't need improvement. It has no
Well,
storm
sure,
sewers.
it needs improvements. You can improve something without making drastic changes to it.
So put it back exactly like it was in 1950?
No. You could put it back to the way it is today where it works.
It doesn't work today, sir.
Yes,
doesn't-
it does work.
it's
It works for the
underwater.
people that have businesses. It works for the people that go to those businesses, and it works for the people that go up and down Broadway.
Well, then we should do what the mayor, I think, and Jess said this afternoon, just grind up the top and spend a couple million and spend the other 18 million somewhere else.
Well,
I
that sounds
guess.
good to me.
Well, I don't know how that's going to help your businesses long term if we continue. Your street like much of the West End.
I mean,
is
the only reason that
neglected.
we're doing Broadway, one of the reasons was for the beautification, but a lot of it is also for the sewers. You've brought the
Yes.
sewers issue up a lot.
Yeah.
And that's great.
Yes, it is.
But
We
if-
neglected you for 66 years.
Okay, and that's fine.
And so this group here that you're mad at, including me, is pushing for that to be done for the
So
first time
to
in
fix
66
the
years.
sewers, you're going to have to tear the street up.
Yeah, so we might as well do
Okay.
it right is all I'm
And,
saying.
and doing it right isn't necessarily putting medians back in.
Not
That's all
necessarily.
that we're trying to say.
Appreciate
But
that.
I'll rest my case.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Dan Pauly, 930 Avenue L. I'm against the mediums myself. I don't have no business on there or nothing, but I'm just against it. And I sent all you guys an email stating so.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
My name's John Blue. I live at 3409 Avenue C. I just have a couple questions.
Sure.
I went to 2 of the 3 things about Broadway, and they talked about these accidents, all these accidents. Well, my business, I drive up and down every street in this town, Broadway, and all that. And I want to ask you, what percentage of those accidents are people who don't stop for stop signs going across Broadway? Because I see that all the time. Or they're driving down the street, waving all over the place, texting. Would you? No one could give me that answer.
No, I don't think they can.
Well, you know,
I don't think they
and just
measure
say
it.
throwing out there so many accidents because it's got the center turning lane. That's kind of like
I would tell you, though, John, that SUDAS, which is Safety Urban Design Standards, indicate that at 23,500 cars, cities should eliminate left turns. And I'm not saying that's what I'm proposing. I'm saying that's what the standards are. And I will go back to those 3 sections of roads, 35th through 28th Street, average daily traffic 19,500, 28th Street to 21st, 19,800. 21st Street to 16 is 23,600. So it's 100 cars over what the safety standards suggest that you would eliminate left turns. And so that it's a factor.
at one time there was no left turns on Broadway.
That's true.
I had somebody make a left turn in front of me on my motorcycle. I had to lay it down. And
Yeah,
we had a confrontation in the parking lot after.
I don't remember that.
It's been a few. That's back when you couldn't go right on red, right? That was the same time era, wasn't it?
I think probably.
I think it
I
was.
think
Yeah.
you could turn left into U-Hauls.
No,
I think it was before then.
And-
Left turns and circle.
but then. so
Yeah, I
had
think
another-
you're right. I've seen old pictures.
I'm all for tearing the new Broadway. Don't get me wrong. We need it. It's a pit. But I had another question on that, and I forgot what it was. So I guess must not have been that
Well,
important.
you're free to call if it comes back.
Couldn't
to you,
access
so.
the cloud.
Good to see you.
Kevin?
How you doing, Matt?
Good.
I won't take very much time because it's a long night and I know you guys are tired. I had
I'm
a
missing the
question, I
Bachelor.
had a little comment for
We're at
Nate.
hour 6. Yeah.
Nate, you said, let's spend $2 million grinding up the street and spend the other $18 million somewhere. I'm Kevin Fleming. I own Fleming Motor Company on 35th and Broadway.
Sure.
Just one time, I'd like, and when you say you're a liberal, that's
Yes.
proof. Because all we think about is spending. Spend, spend, spend. Let's spend that 18 million somewhere else. I would like one day for you guys to come to work and just say, how can we cut the taxes for those people on Broadway? Our taxes are high. I owned a building on 127th and Cube, was twice the building. My taxes were the same as they are on 35th and Broadway in that little gas station. We need to reach Broadway, there's no doubt. I've lived with cold packs putting on those streets, and they throw them up on the hood of my car, and living with the water in the street.
Yeah, they're awful.
I've never come and complained. Just one time, I'd like to feel like you guys cared about us.
That's
I
what.
don't, I don't feel that way. I really don't. And so I won't go any farther with that. But just one question, and maybe this would help. On 35th and Broadway, traffic, there's crazy people out there. You got the red light cameras. How about a police presence? Could that help instead of a median? Because people ramp up going over that bridge. They're crazy. I'm telling you, it's insane out there. So I'd like to put a cable across there and the motorcycle riders coming down are on one wheel. But I don't think the median's gonna change that. I think you're gonna still have that issue. So I don't know if that makes any sense or not, but if a police presence on there, I know on 35th and Broadway, you could write tickets all day long. Because they ramp up going over and coming across, and we got a red light camera there. Somebody mentioned it, and they'll slam their brakes on, and it's helped some, I think. But it's, you know, when they get down there, they're coming by there very fast. Somebody got killed out there on 35th Street not that long ago, so, yeah. And I appreciate your time, but just one time, I just would love that. Isn't there, can't we, because when we say we're working for the people of Council Bluffs, it always costs me. I hate that when you're gonna help me, because my first question is, I told the guys at the planning meeting up there, he said, we're not gonna increase your taxes. I said, I don't believe that. You might be young enough to believe that's gonna happen, but I've lived here a long time. I lived here when they put the concrete jungle down there that we called a mall. Shoved it down our throat. Now all our buildings are gone because they took the money and left town.
Yeah,
so I've been through a lot. So have you guys. So I'm not telling you anything you don't know. But I'm just being honest with you. One time I'd like to feel like I mattered. I don't. Thank you.
The only thing I'd say is we are, for the first time in 66 years, doing right by the West End, including the street. It has been neglected for a long time, in my view. And I think you do deserve a new street.
Yeah.
And you do actually deserve storm sewers, because so many parts of the town have had it for decades, and you don't even have them in 2017. That's not right.
No, so when you say, what will we give up? I've given up a lot for a long time. Thank you for helping. I appreciate that, because we do need it. It's a mess down there. So appreciate that.
You know, in the end, that might be a good point to mention that of all the things, you know, and I was talking to one of my work colleagues today, and they said, what are the issues tonight? I said, well, first the budget, and they thought that would take a long time. I said, no, you haven't heard about medians. And I spent maybe 2 minutes explaining it, and then they finally said, you know, yeah, I could see both sides, but if the biggest problem is your community is able to put in a completely new street on one of your main drags, and people are complaining about the medians, I would kill for your problems in my town. So look at it that way. I mean, yeah, we disagree, and I'm not belittling the issue, but we're putting a new street in the town, and on that I think we can all agree is a fantastic thing. And we don't talk much about that, and maybe that's something where we have some common ground.
Yeah, the only thing I think is that you got a lot of guys here that are on Broadway.
Yeah.
If they don't want it, something's wrong. It's like, you know, half the country's divided, Democrat and half Republican. I don't care which half you're for, something is wrong. We gotta come together. And when you got all the business owners here, and I got a lot of them come down wanting me to sign petitions and do stuff. I don't have any medians, so I'm not, but I think if they don't like it, I gotta stand with them, because they matter, and appreciate that. And I know you guys have been overworked, so I'll let you go.
Thank you.
I'm Eileen O'Connor, and I live at 500 Spencer Avenue. I do not have a business down on West Broadway, but I did spend a good many years, 30-plus years, commuting to and from Omaha. And I've been a Council Bluffs resident for 47 years. So I just want to voice my concern. Number one is, I know that you've said, well, your constituents, they voted for me. I think it's very important for you guys to listen and take into consideration the comments of those most impacted, and listen to all of us, because I've been here several different times for different issues, and I've gone away feeling that you already had your mind made up, and nothing that we could say would change your mind. And I think that's sad. I think it's really sad that that's the way we feel. And it may not be true, but I think it's sad to think that the city council isn't really listening to us. Second of all, I'm a little bit concerned about some of the things that are in the plans. I know that it states pavers in there, you know, the bricks that we have alongside the streets, not on the streets, but alongside the streets.
Pavers are in the street, ma'am.
Pavers are in the street, okay. The ones along the streets, they have been in disrepair from time to time.
Agreed.
And have really been a safety hazard. I mean, I've actually tripped on them a couple times. I was talking to somebody and happened to be walking along. And I think that's very important that we really look at the maintenance cost of everything we're asking for, because that's where we'll be paying for some of these things for many years, is the maintenance. A few years back, I know, Nate, you knew that I came down and talked about the North Broadway beautification project. And
That was fun.
anyway, I guess you could say it beautified it a little bit, but it also, the maintenance costs, there have been times where it's been 4 to 6 weeks that they mow.
I know.
And I
cut
don't
back
like the
on that.
unsightly foxtail there. And so I ask you to, that's one of the projects that I have seen happen. So I think it's really, really important that we try and do maintenance-free as much as possible and really look at the ongoing costs, because that's where our taxpayer monies are going to be paying for years and years to come. So that's what I'd like to leave with you, and I appreciate you letting me talk.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Deb Peterson has a quizzical look on her face when I said pavers in the street. There actually are bricks on the sidewalks, and then at 5 key intersections, there is a decorative paver that you'd find similar to it on 10th and Capitol. So.
Yeah, I say right by Century.
Real street bricks, not the cheap ones that are currently being used there, which are crap.
All that paid for, hopefully, by the Iowa West Foundation, which is one of the concerns I have, frankly, is that their board has committed to the aesthetic improvements based on the plan that was approved. Now, they may recommit based on an alternative plan, but thus my statement this afternoon is I'm not so sure if we cut out everything that we don't end up with just a blacktop road. And I know some people think that's a great idea. When you get done talking, not you, but when everybody else too gets done talking, I just want to read some more from the information that Nick gave me because I think it's pertinent.
My name is Aaron Keck. I live on 415 Huntington. I drive down Broadway every day. I work over in Omaha like a lot of people do, and live over here in Council Bluffs. And I'm not a traffic engineer. I don't know anything about medians, but I Googled things and now I have opinions, which I think is what a lot of us have done. But that being said, I know people, with the possible exception of our engineer, there are people out there who have literally spent years of their life on streets and medians and streetscaping, and they know how traffic flow works. They know, they've tried things. These medians are not experimental. They're tried and tested in a lot of places. In certain instances, with the applicable use of a traffic engineer saying you should put them here or there, they are safer, they are faster, and they do drive business. I drive down Broadway regularly, but on my daily commutes, I don't patronize, the gas stations on Broadway. I don't patronize Jimmy John's or Taco Bell or any of the other impulsive places because I take the interstate, it's faster. So if we can improve traffic flow, I would absolutely love to take Broadway because I work on Dodge. It's Broadway by another name across the river. They don't allow left turns in businesses and plastic there. They don't allow left turns by 72nd and Dodge on either 72nd or Dodge. They're medians and their business is flourishing. It's an in-demand place. And I'm just me. I don't have data. I have anecdotes. And anecdotally, I see, on West Broadway, it needs attention. I see business after business going out of business without medians or with medians. I think that this is something that is time. And so I don't know that we necessarily want medians. I don't know if I need medians. I want to trust the experts. I want to trust the engineers. So I would suggest hiring the engineers. I would suggest going with what they recommend. They spend literally years of their life on this. They've studied it extensively. Thank you.
Huntington, I'm sorry we haven't met. You're in my neighborhood. I'll have to meet you. Thank you. Oh, well, I didn't. Oh, okay. Well, I'll talk to you a little later. Nice to meet you.
Anybody else? Can I, Don?
I'm Don Angeroth, 304 Glen Avenue. I do not own a business on Broadway. I'm just one of these other dumb citizens. I started going to the meetings when you first started holding the planning meetings down at TJ. And my first comment by looking at the thing was immediately, what do you want those medians in there for? I pushed one of the people there, and like you just said, they said, well, the medians were sort of being pushed by Iowa West. Iowa West has, over the last several years, has done several things in the way of, I guess you'd call them beautification, something different anyway, that I think that they tend to take this city by the nose and sort of guide it where they want it to go a little more than I would like to see. I would like to see the city learn to say no to Iowa West, because everything that they want you to do tends to end up costing the city a lot of additional funds also. And I think that some of those things would be better off if we didn't have them at all. You mentioned about the medians over by, at the intersection of Hy-Vee and, or Madison and Woodbury. Look at those, they're all busted up with the snow plows and stuff. You're going to see the same thing. I've seen several places around the city where they had medians. A few years later, they took them all out and they were fine. Then all of a sudden, somebody got a wild hair again, and a couple of years later, they put another median back in there again. If I'm driving down Broadway and I want to go to a business, there's a median in the way, chances are I'm just going right on past it. That's my inclination. Or you're going to have people go down to the next intersection where it's going to have a big sign, I'm sure it says no U-turns, but they're going to do it anyway because they want to get to that place as quickly as possible. So whether you have a left turn or a U-turn, as far as which one is more dangerous, that would be debatable on stuff there. But otherwise, you got to go down, take a right, drive around a whole block, and come back again. And I'd say 9 out of 10 people aren't going to do that. So I think you're going to be creating more of a hazard with a U-turn situation than what you would otherwise. And as far as medians preventing accidents, if it was all those accidents were head-on accidents, I'd agree. I'd say probably most of them are not head-on accidents. So whether the medians are going to make it safer for people, I don't really know. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. You're done, John.
You remember his.
Oh.
Remember what it was.
Oh.
On this,
You
just
have
hit me.
2 minutes left.
Do you see the light bulb come on? No, on this, the second phase, at 25th and Broadway, that, have you ever tried to go across Broadway about 7:30 in the morning or around 3 o'clock in the
morning?
afternoon?
No, I'm just kidding.
You know, because of the school traffic.
Yeah.
You cannot get across, if you're sitting on Avenue A, you're not going to get across on that light. Because, for one thing, there's no turning lane on the north side of Broadway. Need to put a turning lane in there with an arrow up there so that the people can make a turn. I don't know if that's any improvement. I asked those guys on that.
I don't know that it is either, but you're not the first one to bring that up.
Because that,
That's
you
a good
know,
idea.
kids get, it's a crazy place.
That's a good idea.
I mean, I drove a school bus for a while. I know what happens.
Yeah.
So if you'll indulge me a little bit, I just want to quote a little bit from the study that Nick gave me, and I thought it was relevant, one, because it wasn't a study I came up with, so I didn't craft it to make any point. I just read the studies and I highlighted some things. The gentleman said, how many people here have the expertise that the investor in Jimmy John's? I would tell you I do. I've financed hundreds of businesses at hundreds of millions of dollars, and so I think I do have a great expertise with businesses. Many people in this room were customers of mine when I was a commercial banker, so I do have some expertise. I love my businesses. I don't want them to go out of business. We want to do everything we can to make them successful. So kind of here's reading, and I'm trying not to pick any winners or losers. And I understand people get concerned about the unknown. So Nick Atherton gave the council and myself 6 different studies of controlled access, they call it. They were typically done by state departments of transportation. They were done evaluating sales taxes and talking to business owners. And so it says, one common theme throughout all these studies was that business owner perceptions tend to be generally pessimistic about the access to their businesses before a project was constructed. But after implementation, a high percentage of both business owners and motorists had a favorable opinion of the roadway improvements. In general, it has been shown that restrictions of left turns along two-way, undivided roadways to a limited number of clearly defined locations improve safety. Although a left turn restriction may contribute to negative sales effects, the restriction alone does not have a straightforward relationship to sales losses. Other factors, for example, the type of business, the location, and the nature of the competition, the overall economic climate, customer sensitivity to price and quality, all contribute. There are almost always an increase in the number of total employees in business along these corridors, which to me would be an indication that there was business success, that if businesses are hiring, the business must be successful. So there were always an increase in the number of total employees in the businesses along these corridors. Property values were indicated to increase 7.7% after raised median installation. Specialty retail, fast food, and sit-down restaurants indicated increasing customers per day, increasing gross sales, and property values after median installation. Gas stations and other service businesses and other places that calls them out as non-durable goods, which is basically convenience stores, indicated a decreasing customer per day and lower gross sales after the median was installed. And that would pertain to the car wash too, I believe. So the conclusions were on that study that these results generally indicate that median projects have little overall adverse impact on business activity. So we'd had studies, and Roger, that I could have quoted, one was from Utah, one was from Texas. Roger said to me, well, what about one from Iowa? So one of the information Nick sent was from Iowa. Far more business owners, when surveys, indicated that their sales had been stable or increased following the project completion than those who reported sales losses. The rates of business turnover in the study corridors range from about 2.6% to 10%, a range below or equal to the business turnover rate for Iowa as a whole, which was about 10% per year. Retail sales for businesses within the case study corridors matched or significantly outpaced sales in their respective communities. Over 80% of all business owners surveyed along the business corridors that had undergone reconstruction indicated that their sales had increased or stayed the same. 5% of businesses did report decreased sales activity. The major conclusions of the study: business success was not, for the most part, diminished when access was managed. Access management projects increased safety, decreased crash severity, and reduced the number of crashes and reduced the property damage. And so there's similar studies from Utah that say the same thing. You know, I get it. You're concerned. I'm concerned for you. What's that? Yeah. Yeah, sure you can. This is Nick who sent me the stuff.
I'm Nick Atherton. I live at 318 South First Street. Yeah, everything you said in there is true. The one thing that I wanted to point out, though, is the business that we're in, being the automotive repair and gas station, are ones that show detrimental damage. So that was my biggest point.
Yeah, no, I know it was. And I hear what you're saying. I would guess I would point out that we don't have a median in front of your business, although there is a median maybe in the line of sight of your business from people traveling from the west, and so that may have an adverse effect. I'm not discounting that at all, Nick.
So we're not having any median right outside of our business?
You have a median, I believe, in front of the car lot.
So there's, the way I understood, there was going to be a median outside our business. With
I
a
don't
turn
believe
lane.
that's true, but I'll double check for you.
Okay. So regardless, any automotive-related businesses was
I'm pretty
pointed
sure
out
it's
in those
not, but as soon
studies.
as I say they didn't, then I'll be wrong. So
How many-
I'm going
how
to double
many-
check for you.
How many businesses up and down Broadway are gas stations or automotive-related? I believe,
yeah, a lot.
according to your consultant, it was like 17% of the businesses?
Yeah.
If, in your consulting, there was a comment that was made I said the consulting company that was hired listed market challenges along the Broadway corridor. Among these challenges were too many gas stations and automotive-related businesses. So I'm just asking, are you in any way interested in ways to reduce these businesses? Because if you are, then the medians would have an impact on those businesses.
Yeah, I'm guessing, and I don't know, Nick, just from historical, that I think that probably includes car lots, and there's a lot of car lots on buy here, pay here car lots. No offense, Kevin. No offense, Kevin.
I'm just looking at.
But when they say
you're trying to
17%, it probably
if you're trying to
includes those.
socially engineer, the West Broadway corridor, then the median is a perfect way to.
Because
move out
gas
those
stations, I think
businesses.
it's you and Buc-ee's, and I think Billy is out. And so I don't know that any more are there. I think there's only, well, and the new one, the Mega Saver.
And there's a couple of.
Quick Trip, yeah.
We've
Yep, so there's
got,
four.
we've got
Heavy
Don's
gas, there's a
Automotive,
lot.
we've got Dave Orr, who was here earlier. and
Is
spoke.
there? I don't remember.
There's a lot.
We've got Grease Monkey, we've got a lot
Jubilee.
of
Oh,
yeah,
other
yeah, yeah.
businesses up and down Broadway, so. That's
All right.
my rebuttal, is that according to your guys' consultants, there's too many gas stations, too many automotive-related businesses. So if the studies show that, and it's one way maybe to get rid of these businesses
Yeah,
is to.
wait, that's not our,
medians.
that's certainly not our intent.
No.
You know, we would like
Looks
to,
that way.
we would like to increase your property values for two reasons. One, because it's your biggest asset that you invest in, and we love to make you wealthy when you sell it. But secondly, we'd like to take a little more of your property
Well,
taxes. And I
I'd
say
much
that
rather
knowing
have,
that it's
I'd much
going
rather
up
have a
anyhow.
business value
Yeah.
higher than my property tax,
Yeah,
my property
yeah.
value. So
No, I get you.
that's my rebuttal to it, so.
But we want you to prosper. It's not our intent to drive anybody out of business. I've heard that argument. Part of the reason people have signed that petition is they've been told that we want to drive people out of business. That is not the intent. We want to make your business prosper.
And that, I'll take you at your word, Mr. Mayor. There's still that perception that we are favoring some businesses over others. And I would just quote to you from page 98 of the 2030 Bluffs Comprehensive Plan. And page 98 concerns the West Broadway sub-area plan. So we've been discussing West Broadway plans for some time. And the language that I cite says, quote, "The community has invested in sculptures and landscaping, providing an attractive gateway to the city. However, the experience quickly erodes to auto-oriented services, restaurants, and secondary retail," end quote.
Weren't you the guy that on KFAB said that West Broadway reminded you of Detroit?
Segments of it due to businesses
Yeah.
closing due to taxes, which we are raising.
I think that's what you'd said.
We still need a motion on the item on the.
I motion to
table.
approve.
So I was going to go ahead and
Second.
make a motion
Sorry.
to hire the engineering firm to begin this, and then the rest we can deal with when Roger brings it back.
Okay.
So that's my motion.
And were you seconding?
Sure, I'll second.
Okay.
And then for a
Any
little bit
discussion
of
from
discussion.
And
quick.
again, I think just stressing that we've talked to Ron with HGM, we've talked to the city engineers on this, and they've both told us it is several months down the road before the medians are honestly going to become part of this plan. So there's not a cost. And we don't want to delay this project longer. We want them to be able to get started with the utilities and the survey work and all the just initial work that needs to be done so the project does continue to move along. And then with their, next week, or not next week, 2 weeks from now, we will have a chance to really decide what to do about the medians and then let them know accordingly.
So, with my resolution coming forward in 2 weeks, I will approve HGM as the engineering firm for segment 2 with the assurance of all my colleagues and the mayor that the medians still have, we will be voting on the medians next week.
If you bring a
Or
motion.
in 2 weeks,
Yeah,
when I bring a motion.
If you bring a motion, we have to vote.
And
on
that'd
it.
be a public hearing, and that would still require a third reading to change it, or no?
It's just a resolution.
It's just a resolution.
Okay, that
public
that
hear-
was your
a
question
public hearing
earlier,
on a
was
resolution.
Ordinance or resolution.
Public hearing on a resolution. And then I would also like to say that the Iowa West has voted on funding for beautification of West Broadway. And the gentleman stated that he'd like to see some different things. I spoke to 2 board members from Iowa West Foundation, and I asked them both if they had spoken to anybody, any of the businesses on West Broadway that this beautification will affect. And both of them had said they had not spoken to any businesses on West Broadway. And that was a big concern of mine. And they did say, and I don't have the email in front of me, however, and the CEO does not speak for the board, but if the medians are pulled out, they will have to revisit their funding of West Broadway. And I asked if the medians are pulled out, you have conveyed to us that you're committed to West Broadway as one of your three, I think it's Playland, Mid-America, and West Broadway. So I asked if they would fund West Broadway less the medians, if the medians were taken out by the council. And they said they would have to revisit that vote to fund the funding capacity that they have at this point. So that, and then Nate, just one quick thing for you. Somebody who really, and it just crossed my mind, so I just want to tell you, somebody who really helped you in your campaign, I know for a fact, has signed that petition.
Indeed, and
I
members
just
of my
wanted you to know.
family, and I spoke to them, and here's one of the emails I received after. I certainly do believe that the petitions around town and on the internet misrepresent the facts. The petitions imply unfairly the medians will run the entire length of West Broadway, and that parking will be removed from Avenue A. I know folks who have signed believing unknowingly that to be true.
Again, I would say that's anecdotal evidence and a big collection of data.
Well, it's not anecdotal evidence. I quoted it, something I received from someone that's not anecdotal.
Well,
And we've all been told by different people that they
I
didn't
agree.
know what
There's
they
some
decided, so.
misinformation out there.
Well, I think one of the things I saw in the petition, a few things that are not accurate. Avenue A is not losing any parking under any of these proposals. Let me pull up the petition I saw online.
Property values won't go down.
Yep, let me find the,
In fact, it'll probably go up.
So I want people who signed it to know what they signed so that when they go do their research, they can, where did that go?
The petition references Avenue A quite a bit.
Oh, yep. So here's what it says. Left turn access will be unavailable to many businesses on this road. It's 20% is the current proposal, so I don't know how 20% counts as many. We feel this will devalue commercial property. Well, in this day and age, we do a lot of feeling. I suggest we think about it, and when we think about it as opposed to feel, I think you'll indicate that elsewhere, I don't know why cities near and far in the United States, within our state or not, why Council Bluffs would be so uniquely different than the rest of the United States when it comes to how we do business. And if it seems to work elsewhere, gosh, if it doesn't work here and it works all these other places, we've got bigger problems. Each turn lane will only have 3 to 4 car lengths, causing major backups on the roadways. If you look at the lengths of those, most of them are longer. The current ones are shorter, so actually the proposal to change would actually make this better. The proposal will also turn Avenue A residential street into a two-way street. That's two, thus increasing traffic. That's untrue. Two-way streets are slower. One-way streets, when both lanes are going the same direction, are speedways. I myself do it.
It
I'll
doesn't say
admit to it.
increased speed, it says increased traffic.
Increasing traffic and possibly eliminating some or all the street parking. It eliminates none.
It says possibly, Nate.
Possibly but this is after the proposal came out, and the proposal eliminates none. So what this says is factually inaccurate. I'm not saying the person who wrote it lied. I'm saying it's inaccurate. I don't know whether they intended it to be wrong. I don't care. It's inaccurate. That's the important thing. I really couldn't care less if they intended it to be. But if you look at that, it's just not accurate. And my relative who was quoted earlier, it was a bit of a misquote. I was at my grandmother's 87th birthday
Kevin, we
party.
can talk to him afterwards, but you only get one up.
87th birthday party, and I was talking to one of my, I guess she'd be my second cousin, and she lives in the West End, among several of my family, but she was the one speaking to me, and she was vastly opposed to the medians. And like I said this afternoon, she still was after we talked, but after I told her parking wouldn't be lost, that they were only 20% of it, that it was subject to already public meetings and a public vote, and we'd reduce them down to 20%. And we had these incentives for businesses on the side, and we phased it so it takes 6 years so that we could keep a lane open each direction. She said, nobody told me that. Now, fair enough, it's hard to fit all that on a petition, to be fair. But when she heard that, she said, well, I guess there's two sides to that argument, isn't there? So it's not, all I'm saying is that it's not as straightforward as some who think this crazy government notion to impose these things on us. It's not that at all. I realize there's a genuine disagreement, but it's not this crazy plan. And we already voted on it once. I'm happy to revisit it, but we can't keep revoting things because some folks don't like the result. I mean, it passed last time 4-1.
Okay, we got to call for the vote on that one.
All right.
Don't have it in Iowa, you're a republic.
All right, we're ready to vote. All those in favor of hiring HGM as the engineer, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We're adjourned. Thank you very much.